Yo people, Sam here. This time I want to talk about all impressive weapons that we have in the game. So this video will be long, and to save time and not waste our times, I will be talking about the good ones in depth, where the bad ones I will be only talking about superficially, not going much on their uses, because let's be honest, they don't have use. First, when can we unlock impressive weapons? At level 45 on the Gacha tab, we unlock the impressive weapon tab, where we can use normal tickets or impressive weapon tickets to pull for impressive weapons. This is the list of impressive weapons that you can get on the Gacha. And right here we can see the rates for the impressive weapons, where rank S impressive weapons are 1.6% and rank A are 6%. Besides that, here on the exchange tab, we can trade for impressive weapons when we get duplicate copies of weapons that we have maxed. To max impressive weapon, you need a total of 6 copies of that weapon. Here we can see that we have impressive weapon that is not on the Gacha tab, and this one is from the event Golden Time, so you get her for free, and the shop is the only way for you to max her effect. Besides this one that we get for free, there is another impressive weapon that we got from events. If you go here on story, equipment, and weapons, we can see every weapon that we have, those ones from the Gacha, as it says here. Those two event exclusive, this one we got for free and can max her on the shop. This one here we got her on the Miku event the first time it came, and if I remember right, she was also on the shop for exchange, but she isn't here anymore. I don't know the reason, so nowadays it's impossible to get her or to get more copies of her to max her out. Besides those, we have Pandemonium impressive weapons. Those we can buy on the Pandemonium shop with Pandemonium coins. Their effect is not as good as the Gacha ones, but they are good to have because impressive weapons are an equipment that a character can use. So if you go here on the weapons, we can see that they have a level, have their awakens, and when you go to 10, we can see that they increase the stats. So if a character is equipped with an impressive weapon, they'll get out of those stats. So they are great to have because they are free stats on your character. Not only that, if you go here on spiritual upgrade, they also have final damage bonus for the damage, a final damage taken for your defense, which is also great. Another thing to notice is that this impressive weapon here have a clarification that is for support characters, where this one doesn't have that, because each impressive weapon can only be equipped on certain type of characters. Those that have the clarification are only for support, and those that don't have clarification are only for main. And the difference is that when you use a main impressive weapon, their effect needs to be activated. They have a cost and they have an energy bar. Don't mind too much, the cost is 1 or 2, where you get 2 costs every round at max, where support impressive weapons don't have a cost. They are passive skill that is always active in battle. So here we have our impressive weapons in the game currently, and there is a difference on them of being S rank and A rank. The difference is that the max level that the stats can go is lower for rank A, that caps at level 60, and spiritual upgrade that caps at 5, where rank S impressive weapons can reach 70 on level stats, and on spiritual upgrade they can go on level 6. So now I will talk about their effects. I'll be starting from the rank A impressive weapons, and I will only go in depth of use on the good ones. So going here on the weapons equipment section, I'll be talking about them on this order right here because it's based on launch. Those 4 here came at the start of the game. This one was introduced after, then this one, and this was the last Henkei introduced to the gacha shop. Then I will be talking about the event exclusive, and then the Pandemonium ones. After I talk about those, I'll be talking about the rank S impressive weapons. But the video will have those titles cards, so you can skip it on the video for the impressive weapon that you want to know about. Okay? So let's start with Shield of Xingtian. Effect of this impressive weapon is that a character with a shield will recover HP at the start of the round. The amount is very low, and when the shield is destroyed, the enemy that destroyed the shield will take some reflex damage. The effect is very bad because shield skills are terrible, and reflex damage is also very bad. You can't do enough damage, and the heal is okay. I'm not saying that is low, but a character that uses shield don't need this. The only thing that I saw using this impressive weapon was on someone that used Rentaro and Angel to beat Pandemonium and Void Expedition with only those 2 characters. It was quite fun, but besides that I don't see any reason to use this impressive weapon. Next we have Muramasa. Her skill is that when your team attack an enemy that have attack down or a frail that can be removed, they will get a damage bonus. Muramasa was by far the best impressive weapon for support at the start of the game because her effect was in line with the meta at that time. It was a time where we couldn't climax spam with 4 characters, so we would super buff one character that would use a very strong climax skills for great amount of damage. And at that time, because Muramasa was towards frail debuffs, frail was the best way to increase the character's damage. So let's demonstrate how she works in battle. Here I am in battle. So we can see here Muramasa, when a target have removable attack down or frail, this thing will get a damage boost. Here we have an enemy that have a debuff that is a frail. Nothing happens. Nothing happened because, as you can see here, this is a yellow frail. It doesn't count for Muramasa because she clearly says dispellable, which is a removal, which means that the color is red. Here we have a red frail from Summer Aqua. And now if I skip its turn here and use Kimono Suna skill, Muramasa will shine, and the front enemy is taking more damage than the other 3 enemies, meaning that this bonus damage here was being applied against his enemy because he had a removable debuff that was a frail. It also works with attack down, so let's fill some CP for Misaki. So after using Misaki climax skill, we can see here that the front enemy have a removable attack down, and for Kimono Suna skill, he is taking more damage than the other 2. I showed details because most people tend to forget that Muramasa also works on attack down, and the reason for that is that attack down without something to extend its duration only lasts until the enemy moves. So let's say that Misaki is my debuffer. If those enemies moved before my Kimono Suna, they all would lose the attack down debuff on 10, which means that Muramasa wouldn't work. So that's the reason why most people tend to forget that Muramasa as works with attack down, and just straight up says that when the enemy have a frail, your team gets a damage boost. Okay, next weapon. Next on the list we have Olive Wood Club. So the effect of this one is the same as Muramasa, but the damage boost, instead of being for frail or attack down, is only against wound. So this one is debatable. We cannot deny that it had its uses, but we also can deny that it is very bad. The reason is that wound is useless in this game. You can see that the buff is stronger than Muramasa here, but don't forget that Muramasa stacks with the frail. So even on a 2 skill point frail, Muramasa also gets a bigger boost than Olive because of the natural frails increasing the damage of your team. The reason that this one saw play on the game was especially because of Kimono Asuna. You see, Kimono Asuna has a cross skill with Lifa, and the cross skill is a wound skill. And Kimono Asuna also have her exclusive talent that she will yellow frail every enemy that is above a certain HP, which means that when you are using Kimono Asuna as a damage support for your team, you can use her cross skill for 25% boost if her exclusive talent is maxed, plus the boost from Olive, which means that with Kimono Asuna cross skill, you can give to your climax a total buff of 53% damage boost just with a cross skill. And don't forget that wound also lasts 2 rounds instead of one like frail. So for 3 skill point you have 2 rounds of 53% damage boost. And this is the reason that this impressive weapon saw play. If it wasn't for Kimono Asuna having a cross skill with Lifa, this one would be considered quote unquote useless because Muramasa would always be better. Funny thing is that Kimono Asuna also have her 8 climax point skill that can give the enemy frail. So if you have Kimono Asuna as damage support, you could bring this one for 1 DPS and this other one for another DPS and activate the 2 impressive weapons at the same time. Yeah people, Kimono Asuna is fair. Here we are in battle. As you can see here, I have the mid enemy with a wound and Kimono Asuna have Olive Club. So I will use the skill. It is shining. It's hard to see, but the mid enemy took more damage because of the wound effect. So now that I talked about Muramasa and Olive, I need to talk about something that's more specific about Muramasa on the activation. As you can see here, the effect, all it needs is an enemy with a removable frail. But there is a problem with certain skills that give frail on those enemies. Let me use here Sako 3 skill point. This one gets a frail on the front enemy, so we will see here Muramasa didn't shine and the frail is here. The reason for that is that Summer Ako gives the frail to the enemy after her skill does the damage, which means that Muramasa doesn't work because at that point the damage happened, the enemy didn't have the frail yet. Another thing to note is that if you go on a full turn for the thing here and return to Sumerako, here we are on Misaki, the enemy still have a frail. Let's use the skill here and the frail is gone. Sumerako skill 2 frail is one of the worst types of the frails for this kind of situation because it's a frail that happens after the damage and ends before the character have their turn again. So Sumerako can never use Muramasa on her skill 2 because the frail doesn't last enough for her, which is kind of sad. There are more examples of those type of characters, just like Kimono Shana, she have a 0 cross skill where they give attack down to the enemy And for Ignorance of the Destiny, the attack down is after the damage. So as you can see here, Muramasa isn't shining, the damage is happening, and after skill ends, attack down on the enemy. And just like Summer Ako, this attack down will disappear before Kimono-chan have a chance to move, because every enemy will move before her. One character that doesn't have those kind of frails is Kimono-suna. Her climax skill that costs 8 climax points gives the frail before she does the damage. Here I have Kimono-suna on her 8 climax point. She have Muramasa, and Muramasa will shine. As you can see, it's shown, which means that she does the frail before she does damage. Thus, Muramasa will increase her damage against all enemies that are frail. This is what I call the quote-unquote good frail skill, where they boost the character that using their skill together with the frail, so that the skill doesn't hit as bad as it looks on paper. Next impressive weapon. For the next impressive weapon, we have Lamp. The effect is very simple. When she is activated, she will remove the buff from every ally and will increase the yield that they receive. Lamp on specific, I need to talk about her because she is bugged. You see, when we awaken impressive weapons with duplicates, they buff their effects. Phase 5 of Lamp, she changed the number of debuffs from 1 to 2 that she cleanses, but the thing is, when you reached from phase 4, she already gets this effect. Yeah, so instead of getting the debuff purification of 2 debuffs on phase 5, she gets on phase 4, which is kind of cool. Like, it's bugged, they didn't patch this thing. So if you have Lamp, phase 4 is all you need for max effect, because the heal bonus is weak. And this is pretty much the only use that she have. Removing the buff is not something incredible, because most stages on the game don't even have debuffs, and those that have are very weak. There are like 3 or 4 stages that would be cool to have her effect, but her timing of activation is already too late on to the stages. So for the next impressive weapon, we need to scroll down here to talk about the Jarn. So Jarn is a free weapon, as I said before, from Golden Time, and her effect is that she resets the climax skill use of a character that you activate her, which means on a era before Ouroboros was a thing, she allowed someone to use their climax 2 times, which was busted. She was one of the best main impressive weapons at that time, and she still uses till this day. Another effect that she has is that she gives a small damage boost, and before you awaken her, she also debuffs your 10. So she is very strong. I don't think I need to show her in action. It's basically a climax refresh. You can use it again. Next, we need to talk about the Pandemonium impressive weapons. The only one at a time. Yeah, I think it was the only one at a time. We got the Sheng. The effect of the Sheng is that she with 140 of your 10 HP, so 25%, to give a yellow buff to everyone where they will heal based on certain amount, and the character that got the HP eaten will get a bonus heal for 2 rounds. She is kind of niche, like we never really needed her for anything in the game, but she is from Pandemonium. You can grind for her, so if you are not getting lucky with the gacha impressive weapons, you can use her as a stat stick, because having an impressive weapon, even if the effect is trash, is better than not having one. After that, some time passed, we got Karna. She is a support, and Karna effect is kinda nice for the time that she came, where the Pandemonium meta was using a 0 skill point character, a 3 skill point heal, and a 3 skill point single target for your auto team. Karna says that when the character uses a 0 skill point that is not a cross, she will give a damage reduction for all allies, so not the team that use the skill, the other 2 teams will get damage reduction. And she have a bonus for the damage reduction for characters that have more than 3500 defense, which will never happen by the way, because building defense is useless in this game and very few characters can get to this amount. But it's cool that she have, even if she will never use the effect. Next one, we got Zhui. Zhui effect is that every time that the character with her attacks, she will give a yellow bleed on that enemy that is 5% of the attack for 2 rounds, and it will stack. So unless that character stops attacking, it's a permanent bleed that can get to 15% of the attack of the characters. When the equipped character uses a climax skill, she detonates all bleeds on the enemy, which will remove those bleeds for a certain amount of damage. She is very bad for 2 reasons. First of all, bleed is terrible and her numbers are low. And the second reason is that the climax skill detonation removes all bleeds that the enemy have, so she doesn't synergize well with things that want the bleed to beat her. So you don't want to use her, minus on the old bleed team, but you don't want her nowadays. Sorry for the dog's noise. So basically, because she removes the bleed, she normally isn't used on bleed teams, but she saw one use on when Mikoto and Sheng got their Elemental. But even then, bleed teams aren't good, so we don't use her. Next, we got Key of Solomon. Effect of the skill stat: you get 2 skill points when the character uses a cross skill and is at a very low HP. The effect is very strong with this impressive weapon. The problem is the activation condition. You most of the time, like almost never, you get your character on this HP threshold. It's hard for enemies to do damage to you, so even if the effect is very strong, like one of the strongest in the entire game, the activation condition is almost impossible to activate. So never saw any play. Next we have Herbalist Manual. The effect stat: when the character equipped with this impressive weapon uses a cross skill, they will heal everyone in the team, and this impressive weapon will boost the bleed and backfire of everyone in the team. This one here is one of the best impressive weapons in the game that don't see any use nowadays. She came very late in the game, like I think it was after Anniversary 1, so most players already were high level. And the thing is, for Pandemonium and Void Expedition, she is God tier when you don't one turn kill everyone, because when you are grinding your way up to for Pandemonium Void Expedition, using a cross skill and getting a heal on everyone is very strong, like one of the best effects that you can get, because it helps you survive on those stages, which means better rewards if you can do higher level stages. I will show her real just for consideration of how good she is, but she doesn't see any play because she doesn't increase the damage of the team, and bleed and backfire are useless. Here in battle, Summer Hako have no HP, and then she gets healed when I use cross skill with Kimonasuna. As you can see, the heal isn't that big, but let's be honest, when you are climbing up your way for Pandemonium and Void Expedition, anything that helps you survive more will be a godsend to you. For the next impressive weapon, we have Olympic Flame. The skill of this impressive weapon is that when the battle starts, The character with this impressive weapon and the front enemy will receive a death proof that can be removed and lasts for a certain amount of turns. This impressive weapon is mostly like meme for mid-age teens because death proof there is strong since one skill can one-shot the enemy. But on PvE she didn't see any kind of play because it's almost impossible for enemies to kill you. The turn limitation doesn't help with accelerator stage for fragments for you to play a little there. So almost no use because the game is too easy. But I can see she being used on some challenge stages where on round 1 or 2 the enemy knocks the title of a single target character that you have. But still, not many use because the bad effect. And now we have the newest rank A impressive weapon, Moralltach, and she is the best rank A impressive weapon nowadays, for support at least. And the reason for that is that her effect is when your team attack the enemy, they will do more damage. It's simple as that. It's basically Muramasa and Olive impressive weapon without any condition. You can say that the bonus that she gives is lower, but this doesn't matter because the buffs that she works with are better. If you go on Muramasa, she doesn't work with Kojo, support Alice or Index, but Moralltach works with Kojo and those characters. So if you don't have the broken ass impress weapons, she is the best rank A impress weapons for you to do more damage on your team. Okay? Now let's talk about the rank S impressive weapons. Starting with Gada of Indra. Gada of Indra costs 1 to activation, have 5 energy, and she have effect where she increases the crit damage and crit rate of every ally for 4 rounds. So she was day 1 impressive weapon and it's meta until today, those days, because she increased the damage and consisted of your team. So it's very good to have, but nowadays she isn't a priority anymore. But let's see her in action. Here we are in battle. Kimonasuna have Indra with her. As you can see here, she starts with 3 energy, she costs 1 and lasts for 4 rounds. So when Kimonasuna gets her move, she is at 4 energy, which means that you can't activate her as early as round 2. So very impactful because she can be used very early in the battle. Not only that, because her energy amount is only 5, it means that after activation you only have 1 round where you don't have her effect, and then you can activate her again. So if you are on the Crafted Dream, you can activate her on round 2, and then on round 7 you can use her again because the buff will last till round 5. Round 6 you don't have Indra, and round 7 you can activate for her buff again. So it's a very strong impressive weapon that you will not regret getting. Next we have Aegis of Zeus. The effect is that when a team that have their HP lower than a certain amount gets attacked, they will get an attack buff that is the sum of physical defense and arcane defense minus 3500 times a certain amount. So Aegis of Zeus is pretty much useless on her effect. Remember that I said that Karna had an extra bonus and it's the same condition. The problem is that it's terrible because building defense in this game is useless. Nobody wants defense, enemies don't do much damage, so you don't want to build. And another thing for her is that her activation condition besides the defense stats is also terrible. It says that your team needs to have less than 70% HP. It's the highest that it gets. So you have a character that have above 3500 defense. How do you even plan on make it and get this low in HP. How? If they have this amount of defense, they take 1 damage of every enemy in the entire game, besides maybe some challenging quests, but even then they will take almost no damage. So how are they losing enough HP to trigger this activation? Not only that, you could say that Sylvaria can do that because she have cross skills that eat her HP away. But for the activation to occur, your team needs to take an enemy attack. Why? She is so bad. She's so bad that they don't have. She doesn't have banners anymore. She only got one banner on the entire game's life, and on the impressive weapons banner cycle, she isn't here. They skip her. They go Indra, Ouroboros, and those others, but they never get to Aegis because they know that nobody will pull for her because she's useless. Funny thing is that she was quote unquote good before other impressive weapons started coming because she was the only rank S impressive weapons for support, so she could give more stats than the rank A impressive weapons. So some people did the math, and the extra stats that rank S impressive weapons get for being S rank and the extra spiritual awakening is stronger than the boost that Muramasa does for your damage. So it's kind of funny that she quote unquote was strong, but because she was a rank S impressive weapon, but not a good impressive weapon, just for her stats. Okay, next we have Vermilion Bird. The effects that she have at max awaken: she needs 2 energy to activate. She have a cap of 5 energy, and her effect stat: enemy will receive a bleed with a low amount of bleed for 2 rounds. But the important part is that removal frail, attack down, and wound will last 1 more turn on their duration. This was big before Ouroboros came, and she was meta defying because everything was around the buffs. So a extra turn on Kimono Asuna 8 climax point frail and a extra turn on Kimono Asuna wound duration means that you could have more damage for more turns and didn't have to use the bad skills that Kimono Asuna have, and could use her skill 2 on the rotation. Let me show you how it works. So this right here is the thing that basically made Vermilion Bird meta. So as you can see here, Kimono Shana have Muramasa, Alice have Olive Wood. So Kimono Asuna is a damage support character. With her cross with Lifa, we have a wound that would boost Alice's damage. And then on the second last turn, we would activate Vermilion Bird with Kimono Asuna Frail for it to last 2 rounds. So if I use here, Frail, we now have 2 rounds with a very strong exclusive talent from Kimono Asuna, Wound, and Head Frail. So Kimono Shana can trigger Muramasa for big numbers. Alice would use her climax skill with wounded enemies from Olive boost, and Kimono Asuna exclusive talent, and also the Frail effect. So Alice will do her climax. On the last round, Kimono Asuna will use her skill 2 because the effect of Vermilion Bird lasts 2 rounds. So her wound would last 3. Skill 2. Kimono Shana would also use skill 2. And Alice would finish up with Accelerator skill. That would be boosted by everything here and Olive. This was the reason that Vermilion Bird was quote unquote good, but besides that she didn't have much practical use because she starts with 2 energy and only fills on round 3. So it needs quite some time for her to activate, unlike Indra that can be activated on round 2. Okay, next impressive weapon. Next, we reach the best impressive weapon in the game right now, Ouroboros. Ouroboros came on Anniversary 1, so before Ouroboros, the meta was 1 year full of debuff and Vermilion bird activations with Indra. Then she came. Her effect is when the team uses a climax skill that costs 8 or 10 if you are on low awakens, you receive 2 skill points and have in reset the climax use limit. So Ouroboros allowed you to spam or climax skills unlimited amount of time. You could say that she power creeped Jarn, and that's not wrong, but at that time she still didn't do that because Jarn also have a damage increase, so you would use both and pop Jarn for some extra damage on climax. But still, now that we can spam our climax skills every round, we don't need more than one character with a good climax skill. Not only that, we have more skill points to use in battle. So with those, the reason to use Muramasa or Olive doesn't exist anymore, because when we have so many skill points to use, we don't need to min-max or skill points activation. So instead of using debuffs for one character that uses debuffs and other two to do damage, all 3 characters would do damage. We have our climax spammer with Ouroboros and other 2 DPS that would use a total of 8 skill points every round to fill the Ouroboros quota. She came before Kemeneko. After Kemeneko, the thing started going on another level. But let's stay on her launch, so I don't have to talk about her for straight up 1 hour. So with Ouroboros, the previous meta doesn't exist anymore, and Muramasa and Olive lost their place in the metagame. Muramasa still could see use it if you were spamming with Mikoto main, but besides that, those didn't matter anymore. After that, we got many other characters that got on building their climax skills with some climax buffs, but that is a story for another day. So let's see her in action, even if nobody wants to see, because let's be honest, she's in every video of Crossing Void. Here in battle, Kimono Asuna with Ouroboros. So when I use her climax skill, she will get 2 skill points. Ignore the climax point that she will get here. So Ouroboros, 2 climax points. She uses her climax skill. Now let's skip to her turn again. Here we are. Kimono Asuna can use her climax skill again. 2 skill points and more damage. And this is Ouroboros. She is fair and balanced. A few months after Ouroboros, we got another main impressive weapon, Idun's Golden Apple. This one is also very strong, so the skill effect is that she will heal every ally based on a certain amount of the max HP of the ally that activates her. So the buffs last for 3 rounds, and she also increased the ally attack, not damage up, the attack, the basic attack, for a certain amount of value that also lasts 3 rounds. So she was the only way to increase a character attack, which if you understand how the damage formula works, is very strong. She costs 2 to activate it, have a max of 5 energy, and if I'm not mistaken, she starts with 2 energy. So let's see her in battle. We can see here that Summer Echo have her. She starts with 2 at a max of 5. So on round 3 we can already activate her but she will not be available on round 7, unlike Indra that starts with more energy than her. Here we are with Idun's active. As you can see, I used Misaki because she is the one with the highest amount of HP, so I get a very good heal every round for 3 rounds, and base attack up, which is very strong. Okay, for the next impressive weapon, we have Oriental Chivalry. This one is infamous for some things, so let's start with her effect. Okay, Wall of Text. Basically, for every 20% HP on your teams that aren't full of HP, Oriental will get 1 stack, max 12, where she will give damage reduction and damage up for the equipped character based on the amount of stacks. So Chivalry is very confusing. First of all, she gets 1 stack for each 20%, but it seems that the game considers the team to be 2 characters. So for every 20%, you actually get 2 stacks of the effect. Not only that, the damage here is kind of strange for the activation. So Oriental, she's kinda have like a bad written code, let me say like that. I don't think I have the images anymore, but so the thing with Chivalry is that this one here may not be her, let's say, real effect, because when I was comparing with other people that have her, she worked on different ways. So let me show an example. For me, when I have Chivalry up, she doesn't lose the stacks every round like she should, because it's at the start of each round she will reset her stacks amount and give a new one based on the amount of 20% HP missing. The Guardian effect of damage decreasing was working properly. The problem was the damage increase. So let's say that on round 1 I got 4, and on round 2 I was to get 4 too, which means that I would have 4 Guardian effects stacks and 4 for the damage. The problem is that on my team, when I moved to round 2, the Guardian was 4 and the damage was 8 for some reason, because mine was only converting the stacks for the damage when I used a main skill. So if I skipped or used a support skill, the stacks would remain and she would give me stacks that I didn't have. So she is a mess, but she doesn't see any play besides on some events and the boss rush called what's the name again? Moralltach, because she needs a character to be low on HP. Another thing is that she have a secret cost for her damage buff. So it doesn't say here, but for some unknown reason, the character HP with Chivalry also needs to have their HP on less than 18% to receive her effect. If they are at full HP, for some reason this damage boost doesn't work. So it's kind of strange. I don't know why she is this bad on the text, but yeah, basically Chivalry will give 2 stacks for every 20% HP, is supposed to receive a damage reduction, and a damage up based on the amount of stacks. It's basically what she does, but she doesn't work that way. I will not show her because she is quote unquote bad besides her in this situation, and it would be a mess. Next we have another support weapon. We have Ming. This one effect is very simple. After entering the battle, the team with Ming will get a death buff that will not let them die on round 1. They will lose all of their HP, and on the second turn onward, Ming will heal them and will give a very strong damage up but also a damage increase. So basically, the team lose all of their HP, they get heal every round, and the bonus stats they get Taiga exclusive talent. It's a very strong press weapon for secondary DPS. The problem is that our meta nowadays doesn't have a secondary DPS. It is 2 buffers and 1 climax spammer. But still, let me show her what she does in battle. Here I am in battle. As we can see here, I have 3 HP on Kimonasuna because I lost everything from Ming. I also got, let's go find here. Ominous Blade is a death buff that will not allow me to die on round 1. So after, let me use the here skills key just for some damage comparison. I didn't, I should have heal. So this death buff here lasts the entire of round 1, and as you see, round 1 is no more and the death buff is no more. Instead, I got a damage buff and a frail for my troubles. So when I go to Kimonasuna, she does more damage. And remember that she was taking 1 damage from each enemy. Let's see if someone will use Aria. She is taking 2 now because she has a frail on herself. So it's a very strong effect for a team that have a secondary DPS, because the main DPS will be using Ouroboros. The problem is that our meta doesn't use her anymore because we don't have a secondary DPS on anything. Now the last impressive weapon from the gacha is Mímisbrunnr. Mimi. So Mimi effect, she have 2 effects. She have one cost 5 on energy and she starts at 4, so she can be used on round 1. She works this way. After activating her, the next attack you have 2 buffs condition. If it's a skill point attack, you will get more climax point. If it's a climax skill points attack, you get skill points back. So she's a super battery for CP or SP. So let me show her use in battle. Here we are. Let's say that this is round 1. I am on DD and I use Mimi. Let's skip this because it takes too long. So I activate her. She gives to my team a frail that, let's be honest, doesn't matter. And when I use a skill point skill, I get extra climax point. So I got 4 extra and a frail. And this is Mimi effect on skill point. She is very strong because you can now supercharge climax skills on early rounds. So very good. And when you don't need the climax point, you can use her second effect. Here I have Misaki. She is not with Ouroboros and I use her climax skill after using Mimi. So I now have Mimi buff and the frail. I have 8 climax points. I will get this thing. Misaki will, okay, so Misaki will get 1 skill point for her elemental and I will get more skill points because of Mimi effect. So as you can see, I got 2 because I was at 10 skill point, but Misaki will give me only 1 skill point if it was normal. So those are the two effects that Mimi have. She can give more climax points or skill points back if you are in need. It's a very strong impressive weapon. Okay, so next impressive weapon. Well, it seems that doesn't have a next impressive weapon. Or does it? So, for those to notice, I didn't talk about Coffin of Tutankhamun. This impressive weapon, as I said before, was exclusive to the first one of the Miku event collaboration, and she was on shop for a certain amount of time, and for some reason she isn't there anymore. So the effects that the character with a shield that have her equipped take less damage when they have a shield, and they have a chance of removing buff from an attacker. So first of all, why is this so weak? The shield condition. Shield skills are terrible if they aren't named Kamneko skill 1. So you probably will never have a shield in your team ever. Second, the mage tank reduction is very good, but the conditions having a shield so will not happen. And the chance to remove a buff doesn't make sense because enemies don't have strong buffs on most of the stages, and this on the stage that you really want to counter their buffs, you can remove with a spell, or you can't remove the buffs at all, like challenge stages. And now that you can't get her anymore, she is a forgotten impress weapon. Just like I skipped her on this video, and you didn't notice that I skipped her. So that's it, people. Those are the impress weapons, their effects, and some story of their meta changes. I hope that this video can help you guys understand them better, but just remember to read their effects. If you think that the condition is okay and the effect is decent, then it's a good impressive weapon and it's worth raising, even if maybe in the future you not use her anymore. Okay? Good luck and have fun!